Hey everyone, just wanted to share an extraordinary, very vivid, very powerful uh, lucid dream slash astral experience slash vivid dream. Something I can't really describe because it's kind of a blend of all of those above. But I would call it a very vivid, lucid dream because it was yet another dream where I remember the conversation that took place in it. And I was aware that I was dreaming. The element that's not astral is it didn't feel entirely physical, so I didn't necessarily feel like I was out of body or like the elements were not very physical. It was more mind. So nonetheless, I just want to get into it. And it started off with me in some kind of a house in a room. And I was with another man. And he looked like my friend, a real friend that I have in this life, named Matt. Except he had a slightly different build and a slightly different complexion and kind of even slightly different hair and facial features. So I kind of knew that it wasn't him necessarily in this realm, that it was possibly another version of that avatar body or of that soul. I don't know, whichever. But he resembled my friend very much so. And I was going through. I didn't know if this was my house or his house or where I was located. It kind of just looked like a normal house. Nothing particularly out of the ordinary. And I was going through the cabinets, and inside the cabinets were these bills. Bills as in dollar bills, as in 20s, 50s, 5s, 1s. And they were of like different eras. So I saw some that were older, like if you guys could remember the bills from the 1990s, they had the smaller presidents in front of them, and they were kind of not as green as the ones we have today. And there was modern ones, and I was just looking at all these bills, and my friend was standing there next to me, and he said, "Those bills are obsolete." And I remember that very clearly, and this was the most vivid memory I've had in the dream, was him saying that those bills are obsolete. Then I recall them being thrown on the floor, or me throwing them on the floor, throwing them somewhere, but they were no longer in my hands. And so I went into another part of the cabinet and I got out these other bills, also dollars, and they were brilliant and shiny and magnetic, and they had this quality that was just out there, that had no resemblance to what we have now. It was like these bills had a magical, mesmerizing power to them. Like you looked at them and you felt this magical quality emanating from them, and they were like a picture book. So you look at the bill, and I'm looking at it, and I remember this very, very vividly, and I'm turning it back and forth, and the bill has a storyline, like in one of those flip book picture books where you flip through the pages and you see the character run. It was something similar to that, except on a much grander scale. Like you saw like this entire massive story play out in shining, like holographic almost colors on this one paper bill. And I was just fixated on this for what felt like forever. I'm like looking at it, and my friend is like, "These are the new bills. These are the new dollars." And I said, "Okay." So he kind of started to act strange and aggressive, and he started to kind of hug me aggressively. It was kind of awkward and weird. I couldn't figure out why he was doing that, but I don't know if he was wanting to hang on to the bills or he didn't want me to take them or whatever it was. So that ended up ending, and that scene just changed entirely into a different scene altogether. I was just not in the house anymore suddenly, and I was in like some kind of town square type of environment where there were these like small little buildings around this square, and there was this edifice in the middle that was actually kind of circular. It kind of maybe looked like a stage, and it had like these wires around it that almost looked like a wrestling ring, but it wasn't. It was just some sort of strange stage that was set up like that. And I'm looking at it, and there are these beings on the stage, and there's four of them. I remember distinctly that there was four, and I was looking at them, and I knew that in the dream that these beings connected absolutely wholeheartedly to these new bills, to these new dollars. And let me just describe their appearance for a minute. So they looked like walking alligators. They were very tall, and when I say very tall, I mean 10, 12 feet, extremely tall. They had very long arms, very muscular build. They had a kind of two tones, two shades of color. One was like a dark green in the back and a lighter green in the front, like a real alligator would have, like in their front body. Their snout was a lot shorter than what you would envision like a regular alligator or crocodile. It was more human-like in appearance, but it was a snout nonetheless, and it still had an alligator type appearance, and they still had teeth very much like an alligator, very sharp teeth, and their eyes glowed. One thing I remember is that I was staring at their eyes, and I was fixated on their eyes because they had this absolutely hypnotic quality. And one of them turned to me, and it was staring at me, and it had its arms, extremely long arms, protruding outward and attempting to kind of grab at me while I was fixating on its really weird, radiant, glowing eyes. And before it could grab me entirely, I woke up. So I hope somebody watches this. If you do, please tell me what you think. Bye.